Last night was his first day back to work. And the moment he joins this call, it's almost like I see the life being sucked out of him.
I remember vividly one time driving home from work and just really kind of wishing that I would get in an accident.
And every part of him, all the light and happiness that he's been having and this energized state is gone. I think so many times you're so open to experiences, why not just take the risky path?
So today we are going to talk about leaving the job at Intel.
I guess from my perspective, there was a long time when you were, to be honest, you even took Intel not really wanting it. You didn't really want to do the finance route.
That's
you got
true.
this opportunity with a big company after MBA school, and that was like supposed to be like the good thing. So you're like, let's take it.
A lot of fear, though.
Yeah.
Like it was based on a lot of fear of not being able to support the family.
Well, and even you knew, like you had done a few interviews, and I think you were really excited to get an offer with a company as renowned as Intel.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, the interview process is scary and not that fun anyways, and even if you don't want the job, you feel rejected when they don't want you. So anyways, you get this job offer, you take it, even initially not really wanting it, not really liking finance, not really liking the work, but for some reason you're really good at it. And fast forward, how many years were you there? 5 years. And no offense, probably even 1 year into it, you just slowly liked it less and less and less. And the last like 1 to 2, you were just like, loathed it.
The Great Recession, the 2008 economic crisis happened literally within 4 or 5 months of me joining Intel. And that was like, well, I'm locked in. And now I was super grateful. Obviously, carried us through. That was awesome.
Well, that and the timing seemed to always have worked out every time we bought a house too.
Yeah.
And you doing Intel allowed us to buy a house, and then the money we made on that allowed us to travel.
Yeah.
So it's like everything kind of was
let's talk about like.
So you take this job at Intel, you get burned out, but I just didn't feel comfortable for the longest time because I felt like it was a good job, it was a good company, we were making. Honestly, it was only okay money now that we look back.
That was really only okay money.
But also, I do think had you pushed and made it a priority, you could have excelled there. You could have become management. You could have worked your way up the ladder. Although they're very much time-based. You put in your time to work up. Doesn't matter. You just weren't happy and fulfilled there.
Right.
But I didn't know any other way. And I didn't know if my job, okay, this is how Joe's going to feel depression. And my job is just to be like, you got this. I'm your cheerleader. You can keep doing it. But when you're like, no, you don't understand. This isn't what I want to be cheered on doing. I think when that finally clicked for me, I was like, I still want to be your cheerleader.
That's good to know. I didn't realize how much you viewed it that way as just, well, this is sort of just necessary pain. That's interesting. So
I think I viewed work as school. Like not every kid loves all aspects of school, but there's enough good where you keep going every day. And so I was like, okay, Joe's doing that and I'm taking care of the kids and we both have our pieces of this family puzzle. Also just not knowing what it looked like outside of that. So I think we just kept revisiting it and you had ideas for business and wanted to try them.
I have a pretty clear understanding of my journey to get to the point where I felt comfortable quitting. What's your take on it? So I left Intel, funny enough, Joey was born, right at the end of March, and I think it was like middle of April that I told my management, okay, I'm going to leave. And then I actually had my last day in August, but that was after vacation time and different things. So what got us to that actual tipping point of me having that conversation?
I'm trying to think. There was so much going on at this time. There was different situations with leaving the church.
Because now just thinking about it, I'm like, it's actually kind of remarkable that you did feel okay about it, considering that you were just having a new baby.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, we did say, let's hold on until he's born so that we have the health insurance to cover the birth, which makes sense. But yeah.
So that was the same time that we were leaving the church. You were wanting to quit your job. There were things happening that we were arguing about in our relationship. And I could just see everything piling up in a way that it was like, okay, is this the midlife crisis they talk about? Also, I just saw it wasn't going away. Specifically with Intel, that one wasn't going away. you were really making a lot of pivots in your life, and I didn't want to be like the weight or the noose around your neck that didn't let you fly. And so I was like, well, the worst that can happen is he quits, we spend all of our savings, and then one of us gets a job again. I had to just go through what's the worst that can happen in this scenario. A little bit after this time, we did go to Landmark too and had a similar experience where they walk you through the worst possibility. That was after quitting. But I think that was kind of some of my stuff is I was like, he's not getting through this. And if anything, everything just kept compounding for ways in which you wanted to change the way you were living.
Yeah.
What was the tipping point from your perspective?
So I have 2 or 3. One, I think I started to suspect that I didn't want to stay until within maybe just a couple of months of starting there.
Oh,
and then the Great Recession happened, and so
that's when you took the job too. Initially, I was also pregnant then.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, here, you're pregnant. So all these times,
So I know a couple of things that had happened. Like, I remember vividly one time driving home from work and just really kind of wishing that I would get in an accident that was not bad enough to kill me or injure me forever, but bad enough to put me in the hospital for a while and give me just a break and just like let me stop doing it. And also just mix things up. I just felt extremely like Groundhog Day and just bored and all this stuff. There were a lot of different other things, but like from it's interesting because there's sort of like this external part of work where it's like, do I like the function and do I like the people and do I like the company and do I like what I'm doing? But then there's the internal part of work where it's like, do I feel energized every day? Do I feel like self-actuated?
Yeah.
And I very much lacking the self-actuation part, but I was also like in large part lacking the liking of the company. Like there were just more and more worrisome signs, and Intel being like a Bay Area company, it was like getting some of that woke like DEI mentality and stuff like that, and there were some frustrating things. The other part was much more internal. It's a longer story. Okay, so basically I quit at the beginning of 2013. Starting sometime in probably 2011, I reached out for coaching, life coaching, and I had also talked to a couple of mental health people and stuff. I had also had weird physical things. I was starting to have tooth pain, and I thought I had sleep apnea, and I talked to a doctor, and she was like, "Are you stressed?" And I was like, "I don't think so." And then she pointed it out, and she talked about clenching your jaw, and I realized I was hardcore clenching my teeth while I was working. And weird sign of stress that it was completely subconscious for me, but I was actually putting a ton of pressure, kind of cracking a tooth when I was doing that.
Oh, crazy.
So I had started life coaching. I had talked to people who sort of encouraged me, and it's this really weird thing because how much of this thing I don't like is me just being immature and a baby who can't handle normal work pressure versus how much of it is, no, this is a mismatch for my life.
During this time, we were doing lots of fun things as a family. We were rock climbing, we had gotten wave runners, and you were windsurfing.
Kind of all the things.
And we were still having a lot of really fun hobbies, a lot of fun activities, a lot of adventures, a lot of memory making. But it was like Monday morning would roll around.
Sunday day would roll around. Sunday day, I would start to
dread Monday. Just knowing that it was Friday would be so exciting. We were trying to do all the things.
Mondays.
We were trying to do all the things where it was like, okay, I can still have an awesome life, even though my work isn't my favorite. How much of that is just you need to get over it versus make a change?
And so I started listening to a lot of success mindset type books, like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill and The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles, and then some Tony Robbins things. And then there was a podcast, the New Man podcast. And I was listening to it every day on the way to work and on the way home, listening to those things and trying to do, and actually Megan and I had started doing morning walks with kind of motivational things and stuff. And I got myself I don't think I ever knew that it was the right thing to do to leave. However, I knew I really wanted to. And then I got myself mentally to the point where I had faith that things would work out, even though I didn't know they would work out. That's
I feel like there's also a time when you started looking at a lot of your managers and their lives and what they did, and you were like, I have zero interest in that.
I had a manager who was really cool, Terry, and she said to me one time, well, when you see what my boss does, do you want to do that? And I was like, heck no, not even a little bit. So she was really cool that way. She was very much about, actually she viewed her way of giving back to the world, of helping people who were at Intel, coworkers and stuff.
I just remember that epiphany. You were like, Intel holds nothing for me on the day-to-day. Now, in the future, this isn't what I want.
But that, even all of this was not enough. I do know that I very much was, we were very religious at the time, and so I prayed a lot, fasted a lot, tried to figure out what I needed to do. And at one point I got the idea, and I wrote it down in a journal, like, hold on until January 2013. That was the idea. And so I did. And in January 2013, we didn't quite feel like it was time, but I made it. And then pretty much around that time, too far after there, we were like, okay, we'll quit after Joey's born.
Just to call out too, it's really huge. This whole time, like you said, we'll quit. You definitely made it a we thing, and I think that helped. Like, even though I wasn't ready, I don't know if you were quite ready. I think there were times where you're like, I really want to quit, and you wanted my support.
Mm-hmm.
But so thinking the whole time we communicated, I think there were times when I was more ready for you to quit than you were. There were some times when you were more ready to quit than maybe I was. But at the same time, I think through it all, we knew where each other stood. We may not have been on the exact same page, but I think communicating openly about where you're at, I think you were really good about that. And I think that's a really big deal.
I'm glad you seem to remember that. I don't think that was the case, because I don't think I knew that. But I will say, I say we because a job was never about me, to me. It was never about me. I went to business school because I was supposed to be the provider. And business school was the best way to make the most money, to get us in the best life. It always had to do with the family and what would be best for the family. And it was never about what Joe wants for his life.
Well, and also in a line of work that you thought you were interested in until you were...
The only purpose of me being interested would be so that I could do a good job for the family.
For the family. Do you not feel like you communicated very well throughout everything?
I don't feel like I understood very well, and I also don't feel like... I feel like a lot of the time we were not on the same page. And kind of how you said, like, okay, I'm just going to cheerlead Joe on through this. I think if I had communicated better, maybe you would have realized, like, no, this is fundamentally not what I want.
Yeah. What kind of advice now, looking back, would you give somebody in that situation who, his wife is pregnant, he has 2 other kids?
Well, I think that's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't know if I'm in the position to give any advice, because we're in the same situation right now. And I'm still lost. Yeah, we've been in
Kuala Lumpur for about 10 days.
No, it has nothing to do with Kuala Lumpur, though.
I mean, what background is behind us, it's kind of cool, but...
Like, work and job-wise, there's just a lot of discomfort, a lot of lack of self-actualization, a lot of, like, dread of work. And I do worry that this is, like, just a pattern within me. But if it is... I don't know.
I won't say we've tried all the things.
You can't ever say we've tried all the things, all the reasonable things.
Yeah. I do think there is a part of this time, looking back, and like you said, if you had understood yourself better, you could have conveyed to me better, I could have conveyed to you better. Maybe we weren't on the exact same page, but we could understand what page the other person was on. It's not like we weren't talking to each other, though. I think through it all, I think we've gotten better about talking, and we could have been better then. But one thing that I'm seeing right now, off and on recently, he has said he's wanted to quit his current job, but he hasn't really taken any even baby steps towards that. And so I was like, well, do you really want to? Or are you just saying, how much of this really is deep? Because I don't want to push him and be like, okay, quit. And then he finds out that he's not really ready to. Last night, we're here. We haven't been working. Last night was his first day back to work. And this whole trip has been so pleasant. And the moment he joins this call, it's almost like I see the life being sucked out of him. And every part of him, all the light and happiness that he's been having and this energized state is gone. Not just gone a little bit, where it's going to come back after this call, but gone like it has just been sucked out of
Like
his
now.
life force. Yeah. And so this morning I told him, he had said something, and I was like, I'm really glad you feel that way because I wanted to talk to you about it. I no longer think it's just something to work through. And also, just to call out, you have some mental health issues on your side of the family. I do too. I think most people can say they do. And so sometimes you wonder how much of it is motivation or depression kicking in. But there also is this point of living and lifestyle, and where you don't want to give into your fears of needing money necessarily, of not having enough money, but also living just a little bit more full life. Also, I don't mind working and helping to support now that our kids are a little older and it's a little bit more feasible. So there are options that we know about now that weren't maybe as open as they were back then. But seeing your state and your energize and your body experience, I would say that is when somebody can have a breakthrough to a deeper knowing for themselves what it feels like from a physical perspective of, is this sucking the entire life force out of me, or is it lighting me up?
We can talk about that. That was really actually a stark experience for me, a very standout kind of experience, because I had 2 meetings last night, one with one company that I work with, and then another with the primary company that I work with. And the primary one, I was just gone. I was checked out, and I felt it very strongly. But again, all this conversation, it rubs me the wrong way because it's not about me. And this is where the struggle is. It is about what is best for the family. The reason why I have been communicating for more than a year, probably for 2 years easily, if not more than that I am not enjoying this, that I don't want to do this. But there's never been a better option for the family.
Yeah.
And that's why. And it's like, yes, you can work, but then that just transfers this burden of the problems onto you instead of onto me.
Yeah.
And so this is actually a big reason why I haven't yet fully decided how to do this.
Say something real quick. One thought that just came to mind for me with Intel was a big part of why you weren't ready to leave through the ups and downs of not wanting to be there was I could see your fear of failure into you quitting and then trying something. You had this fear of failure just about leaving and providing for your family. But I remember there was a turning point where we talked and you said, I would rather quit and try my own thing and fail than never having tried it. Mm-hmm. And it was that realization where I was like, even with his deepest fear is fear of failure or looking stupid or whatever, even with that, you still were willing to take that risk because it was so much more appealing for you to try it than never have tried it and stayed at Intel. It's like the sliding doors when you can see both and you realize I would be so much more sad for not trying this path than missing out on all the good from this one.
Yeah.
So I think that was also a realization for me, is when you fully accepted all the failures of one side and missing out on everything from the other side, and you still wanted to do that. You still wanted to leave Intel.
Yeah. But, so true. But like if you ask me, okay, Joe, how do you feel about that? I'm like, it is not a Joe decision. It is a us decision.
Yeah.
I hear you say yeah, but everything, when we talk about it, you talk about me, but I want to talk about us.
True.
What is best for us as a unit, as a family unit, as a you, me, and Joey in Kuala Lumpur, Bella and Talia in the US, maybe coming out.
You want to know what's best? You in a happy state.
Yeah, but not just me in a happy state.
Me in a happy state too.
That's what I was going to say.
Like, if there was the one, I had a job when we were first married where I was working for an oral surgeon, and it was miserable. One of my first training days, they literally put me in the chair, strapped me down, and left me there for 2 hours just for training. And it was
really?
like
I
hazing.
didn't know about that.
Oh yeah, like The women were not nice. The male was extremely chauvinistic. The whole thing was bad. And I came home crying, and he's like, you do not have to go back. You do not have to be polite and give your 2 weeks notice. So I took my scrubs in and didn't return. And you had my full support. No questions asked. I had your full support. I would say you were like
No, you're
knight in
you're
shining
not
armor
staying.
making, yeah, you're just like, there's no way I would ever want that for this person I care so much
Yeah.
about.
But the thing is that what's hard is like I have a really good situation at work
You
right
do.
now.
You make good
So
money.
it's
You work
all
with great
inside of
people. You get
me
to.
is that that's the hard thing. So there is a big part of me that is like, Joe, you have a sweet gig. If you can just figure out how to keep it, you can keep making a lot of money. You just need to change how you do the work. And perhaps maybe what I need to do, because I don't have any contracts at all, is I just need to be like, okay, Arian, you're coming on. I'm going to start paying you. Because frankly, there is no aspect right now of the day-to-day Neosystems work. That's probably the biggest thing. It's not that it's this huge, terrible part of my life. It is that there is no part of the work that makes me feel like I'm growing or getting closer to anything I want in any way. Oh, I know you want to say something. Go ahead.
I just want to pause, step back. This is exactly what happened at Intel every time too. So you're a thinker, you're a solution person, you're a problem solver. And so you're going to find ways to stay, to make it work. The rut is, and the path taken is easier. So you almost like talk yourself into it or keep it. Now, I'm
Well,
not saying
no,
that
no,
it's
no.
not a great
No, that's
idea,
good. Okay.
but it's just like the reason why you're not going to do it, and I'll remind you, is because there's something else you want to do with your time.
Well, and that is the big thing, is that sometimes I feel like I have this flight to safety and this flight to certainty.
Oh, we all do.
Yeah.
I literally, that was some of the funnest things about reading our brains. Like, it will always default to the path known,
Yeah.
the habitual path, the easiest path, all of those things.
Well-
and so quitting Intel, quitting this job, it is scary, it is difficult, it is different, it is unknown.
But so then the big question that left in my mind, though, is I step back, and we are such a privileged and blessed kind of position right now to have enough money and to have all these things. And what about the people who are single parents and who are forced to
Scrape
do
by.
some job that they don't love and all this stuff? But then sometimes the answer in my mind is that's true for them. They do have to do that. You are not in that position. It's annoying because I'm like, oh, am I living in a fantasy world where let's just make a podcast and earn money and do this and do that? And maybe, I don't know. That's really the struggle right now, is just, am I being unrealistic and am I being foolish?
What's the cost if you are?
A lot. Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And then
Minimum $100,000.
Okay. And again, think of the sliding door situation where you have the two paths. You've already stayed on this one for 20 years, give or take a second or few. And so I think so many times you're so open to experiences. Why not just take the risky, different path?
That's a great question. It does feel, though, this is one where if you get off the path, it's very hard to get back on in a similar position.
I know. I think that's the negative voice talking, though, because I have definitely felt that way with programming or stopping work. They tell you, oh, any gap in your resume. You step away and you're no longer this knowledge base. And I think if anything right now, with the way AI is changing everything, right now is as good a time as any to step away. Because it's
Exactly.
changing for everyone.
Like retrain, and then by the time, if I came back in 2 years and was like, okay, I want to do adaptive consulting, number one, adaptive might be different. Number two, I can probably just train up using AI and be totally current in like a day.
Also, if
And-
that day ever comes, I'm going to laugh so hard if you ever say I want to get back into adaptive consulting. But
then
you're not
how
wrong.
do we as a unit who are, again,
Have a whole family, have each
No,
other, want to have good
who
things.
are a single unit, not a Joe and a Megan somehow separate from each other, but we share a life. How do we decide if I fully sever ties, or if I say, okay, I'm going to try and have Arian do extra work, or whatever? How do we make that decision right now? We've only done it truly once in the past. I did also quit Venna, but that was during COVID. That was a very different situation.
I think we as a unit, now more than ever, I do think we're very much on the same page. I do think we're walking pretty tandem, naturally together. I think there's a lot of growth that I've had in order to catch up with you. And I think there's a lot of, you had a lot more self-awareness. But I think with that, you also had deep self-awareness. You have deeper self-awareness. And I guess I'm just thinking, if you figure out what your ideal looks like and how you're going to work together to get there, I think saying no to things, even when they're good, gets easy. I think walking away from things in gratitude instead of running away from things you don't want makes it good. For example, like with this job, you really do enjoy who you work with. You don't mind the clients. The work isn't terrible. It's very flexible. So there's a lot to be grateful for. And even then you can say thank you. I'm going to move on to this other thing that I really want to do, instead of really burning out and hating everything and making it miserable. So I think doing it in gratitude and positive and that energized state is really the key.
I actually love the idea of thinking about gratitude and bring to mind, maybe I do one last try. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I will say, just on the topic of gratitude, of all the things that have helped me have a state change when I'm in a negative place, besides working out, which is just good for a physical state change, writing a letter to somebody, anybody. I have done teachers from being a kid, whatever. Just writing a quick letter of gratitude really is that state change. So saying you can quit, just make sure you're doing it in that good state.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's always good.
We can still quit.
Thank you. It's always good to do everything from a positive state.
Yeah.
Even if it's a stopping of something, you do it positively rather than, I'm going to be upset or negative or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
no, I do love that.
yeah. Cool. Well, I think that's probably a good time to end it, because there are no simple answers sometimes. Every once in a while you get a real clear, simple answer, but a lot of the time you're just feeling through it and taking the next steps, but
if we had
it helps to do it together.
Young father of 2 and his wife is pregnant come to us, I would probably give that advice. I would say, work together, make sure you're communicating, build a plan together of what it is you want and how you want to achieve getting there. And then from a positive place and in a good state and with gratitude, figure out how you want to move forward. Because it could be stay with that job for a little bit longer. It could be hang on till January 2013, till the baby's born. It could be quit tomorrow, let her work, he becomes stay-at-home dad. There's so many options, but I think communicating together and in a good place is the key.
Yeah. Thank you.